Hey, Mike here. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Dark Poutine early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
You're about to listen to a historical episode of Dark Poutine. After episode 149, you will find Scott is no longer with the show. In an effort to maintain continuity and offer listeners as many episodes as possible, we are leaving the episodes in which he co-hosted intact. Thank you.
Oh, is it happening?
It's happening.
Oh, it's happening.
Welcome to Dark Poutine. I'm Mike Brown, creator and host. With me, as usual, is my good friend and co-host, Scott Hemingway. Say hello, Scott.
What is happening, y'all?
This podcast, hopefully, is happening.
That is conclusive.
Yes.
Like, it is happening.
It continues to happen.
It continues to happen and happen more.
Yeah.
It's bonkers.
It is bonkers.
And I love it.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during the Dark Poutine podcast are solely those of the producer and do not necessarily represent those of Curious Cast, its affiliate Global News, nor their parent company, Chorus Entertainment. Dark Poutine is not for the faint of heart or squeamish.
Mm-hmm.
Listener discretion is strongly advised. We're not experts on any of the topics we present, nor are we journalists. We're just two ordinary Canadians chatting about crime and the dark side of history. Someone made fun of me for saying regular Canadians and posted something to do with
Poop.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say we're ordinary either.
We are ordinary.
We're pretty nutso.
Let's get to it. Put on your toque, grab yourself a double-double and an Nanaimo bar. It's time to scarf down some Dark Poutine. This is episode 56. We started off 2019 with a bang, covering the disappearance of 4-year-old Michael Dunahee of Victoria, BC.
Yep. Yeah, that was a heavy one. That was a really heavy one.
It was. However, the reactions to it have been super positive. We got the most shares across any of the sites that we typically have our stuff shared on. So.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had the most downloads ever in a single day for a single episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did, like Global News shared us and stuff like that. There was one I went to and I read some of the comments. And again, don't read comments in Facebook or anywhere. It's just crazy how just one person I read was like going off on his parents.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it takes every ounce of strength to just not reply with, you insensitive piece of shit.
What? Yeah. Do not feed the trolls.
Well, unless they're hungry, then.
We'd love to see this solved, and a little bit of a teaser. We're going to have more information from somebody related to the case.
Great.
Yeah, so that'll be coming in the spring. This is the first of our cases, other than Sam Meadows' research for the Wesley Hallam case in the Sioux, that I received a ton of help with. This episode that we're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
Listener Rebecca McNall, she's a criminology student in Ontario. She reached out to me and offered assistance researching. So this is the first case that I gave her, and she really came through for us. So thank you, Rebecca.
That's so awesome, Rebecca. I love that kind of participation with our listeners, like them getting to actually be involved so heavily in what we do. It's pretty wicked.
She's been working on some other cases for us, and we're way ahead on the big one that I've been working on, so this is good. This particular episode covers a group of crimes all orchestrated by the same man.
Oh.
And I've been wanting to cover this for some time, but I don't know how many people are going to know who this guy is. The first of his crimes happened early in the 1970s. So there may not be a lot of listeners who even were alive then or are familiar with that particular part of the story.
In typical fashion with me, I'm not usually up to date with who we're covering. And this name, though, stood out for me. I'm pretty confident I'm going to know the case because the name it was like,
A little
That's
bit,
familiar.
yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about it briefly.
Probably.
These are the crimes of Hungarian-born and former successful millionaire Toronto real estate developer Peter Demeter.
Or as I'm going to call him, Peter Demeter.
Peter Demeter, yeah.
Because it's spelt that way. That's how I'm going to say it.
On the evening of July 18th, 1973, Christine Demeter, a 32-year-old Austrian-born model, stayed home with her 3.5-year-old daughter, Andrea. Everyone else had gone on a shopping trip to Yorkdale Plaza, about half an hour away. Peter Demeter, Christine's husband, was driving her small Mercedes coupe. The passengers were Sybil Brewer, originally from Germany but now residing in Connecticut; Sybil's 2 daughters, Demeter's 17-year-old goddaughter, Vivica Esso. Rounding out the group crammed into the car was the family dog, a spaniel named Beelzebub. Sybil's daughters were looking to buy some Canadian souvenirs before their return home. They wanted moccasins. Peter wanted to buy something special for Christine's upcoming birthday. He invited Vivica along to help him pick it out. She came begrudgingly, as she'd preferred Christine and Andrea's company to Peter's, but he'd insisted. Before the group split up, each with their own shopping missions, Peter asked the group to synchronize watches and meet up at 9:15. There were no cell phones at the time, so you couldn't simply call to let somebody know that you were ready to go. Peter and Vivica left Sybil and the others to their task and went off to find the Burke's jewelry store. While Vivica browsed around the store, Peter was paying for the silver locket that the two had settled on. At around 8:35, Vivica noticed Peter talking animatedly on the store phone. He waved her over and handed her the phone. On the other end was Christine and 3.5-year-old Andrea Demeter. Christine put Andrea on the phone and she said, "Hi, Mommy and I want you to come back to our house soon." The group finished shopping and met up at 9:15 as they'd agreed. The group began to make their way back toward Mississauga to the west. Peter stopped once to pick up the late edition of a newspaper from a newspaper box. As the car pulled into the driveway at 1437 Dundas Crescent in Mississauga, Peter looked at his watch and commented, "It's 9:45, just enough time for coffee." He reached for the remote control for the garage door and pushed the button. As the garage door came up, the headlights from the Mercedes revealed a horrific scene. Christine Demeter, clad in her nightgown, lay motionless in a huge pool of blood next to Peter's Cadillac. Now that the door was open, the blood had the freedom to seep slowly down the slanted driveway. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Peter cried. Sybil leapt out of the car and Peter followed into the garage. The children were told to stay put until Peter and Sybil ensured that help was on the way. Thankfully, 3-year-old Andrea Demeter was sitting quietly watching TV in the living room of the Demeter home. She was unharmed and had no idea of the horrific state of her mother only meters away. She was unaware of the whole thing. Peter called 911 and told them he thought his wife had attempted to commit suicide. Paramedics and police began to arrive. Christine Demeter was declared dead by first responders after a cursory examination. When asked what he thought might have happened, Peter Demeter suggested that his wife might have fallen onto her head from the rafters in the garage. Right?
Yeah, not what I would expect anybody would be prepared for going out shopping.
No,
coming
and
home
they
to
come
that
home.
scene. Yeah.
He just talked to her on the phone.
Yeah. It's
So it was a matter of probably an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Not at all. Something you can prepare yourself for.
No. And you've seen a horrific thing like that yourself.
Fairly similar. Went out with the. I would have been young like that child, but went out for the morning and came home to find what I would call a step parent hanging in our home. So yeah,
and she'd committed suicide, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I can.
So that's a pretty traumatic thing for people to see.
Yes, even at the age of 3, that's something. Because I was close to that age, that's something that will linger.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The best description of the crime scene comes from Mississauga Police Detective Sergeant John Forbes, as noted in the book By Persons Unknown, The Strange Death of Christine Demeter, which was authored by George Jonas and Barbara Amiel. Quote, "On entering the garage, I noticed there was a body of a female lying face down on the concrete floor of the garage, with her feet toward the north and her head was toward the south. Her hands were folded under her breast and not visible. She was wearing a long ankle-length brown plush gown and silver slippers, one of which was still on her right foot and the other lying on the floor west of her left foot. On closer examination, I observed she was wearing a pair of white bikini panties with black and brown polka dots. These panties were in good condition and were in place on her hips. She was not wearing a brassiere. The gown she was wearing was backless and tied to the back of her neck. On examination of the body, it was noted that there were numerous small bruises on both thighs, shins, and her right knee. There was a large massive wound to the skull of the body caused by a crushing action. It was apparent that the brain matter had emerged from this cranial wound."
Geez, that's got to be a serious blow or fall or whatever. For brain matter to be visible, it's not just a bonk.
Peter's 73 Cadillac had blood all over one side. Christine had been hit in the head with something heavy like a tire iron, and that was at least 6 or 7 times. Who would have done such a thing with their daughter sitting just inside the house?
So Peter had said that he suspected a fall.
Yes.
From the rafters above. You're not going to walk back up, fall again, walk back up and fall again. Like so for 6 blows.
Yeah.
Yeah. His analysis is off.
Let's learn a bit about these folks. In 1940, Christine Liselott Maria Ferrari was born in the city of Innsbruck, Austria, which had been recently annexed by the Nazi-led German army. She was the only child of her Catholic parents and received a parochial education as a result. You know what a parochial is, Scott?
Taught by your parents.
No.
Damn it.
Taught by the church.
That's what I meant.
Your parents are not the church.
Don't tell them that.
At 17, Christine left school and married her first husband, Herbert Honlinger, and then she had a son just months later named Martin.
Martin Honlinger.
Christine was still growing and surpassed her first husband by 2 inches over time.
Oh, wow.
She became interested in fashion and the modeling world in the late 1950s. Trouble started in the marriage quickly thereafter.
Uh-oh.
Herbert and Christine were divorced in 1963. Herbert got custody of 6-year-old Martin, and Christine was free to pursue her career as a model.
So they've been together for a chunk of time.
Not really. 6 years.
That's a chunk of time.
Okay. She started to make appearances in magazines and was beginning to make moves in the fashion world in Vienna. Christine even became entangled with famous German fashion photographer Günter Sachs for a time. She later claimed Günter had asked her to marry him, but she refused. Günter, who'd been married to Brigitte Bardot prior to meeting Christine, was not passionate enough for her.
Wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
Maybe that's why Brigitte Bardot left him, too.
Could be. Oh.
Ouch.
I always suspected.
In 1967, she became involved with Franz Antel, a successful filmmaker with numerous films under his belt, mostly sexy rom-coms in German, of course.
So I'm fascinated to see where this goes. She's married and dating and spending time with some pretty elite people, and then you got Peter.
Christine even had a small part in one of Antel's films that was shot early that year.
Ooh.
In February, Christine was introduced to a man visiting from Canada. His name, Peter Demeter. Peter was tall, confident, and rough and ready.
Oh.
He was no milquetoast like Gunter Sachs. He knew what he wanted and was not afraid to go out and get it. He knew all the right people. Peter had money and access.
Okay, well, all right.
Christine was smitten with him right away.
Okay, he's no Gunter Sachs.
Christine didn't speak English yet, but as well as her native German tongue, she was also fluent in French and Italian. She'd have no problem with a fourth language. Peter was impressed with her, too. She was 26 and at the height of her beauty. Peter himself had seen tough times. He, his brother, and mother had survived a Russian bombing in World War II that had killed his father.
Oh, wow.
Peter's older brother was later killed by a German bullet in the fighting for Pest.
Wow.
Which later became Budapest. After the war, having been liberated from Nazi rule by the Russians, Hungary was under Soviet rule. Peter was sent to live with his cousins in the country. Peter returned to the city, ready to become a filmmaker and a journalist once he was older. He wanted to attend university for this, but as these professions were not respected in the Soviet world, they were seen as subversive. Peter was expelled. He went to work in 1954 as a truck driver, but was later drafted into 2 years mandatory military service. However, as he was already seen as bourgeois, which was a no-no in communism, he was to be sent to do forced labor so he could learn his place. After failing twice at escaping to the West, 2 weeks before he was due at the labor camp, Peter and a friend made their way to Vienna, where both sought asylum at the U.S. Embassy.
And probably enjoyed some of those sweet sausages, Vienna sausages.
You like them?
Sure, they're great.
Well, that was the commercial. You like them. You like them.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Peter lived briefly in a refugee camp for others fleeing Soviet rule, but thanks to family connections, he was quickly on a boat to Quebec City. He spent 4 months in Canada, but returned to Graz, Austria, to visit his ailing mother. This is where Peter met a young man named Saba Szilágyi.
Yeah, him.
He was at the time studying the Jesuit faith, so also a Catholic. The two became fast friends, and Saba would play a large part in what was yet to transpire. They would remain in close touch as Peter was back and forth between Europe and Canada over the next few years. Peter, fearing he'd lose his landed immigrant status in Canada, moved to Toronto in 1957 after nearly 6 months in Austria. He took many odd jobs around the city, including a stint as a Fuller brush salesman.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
So Fuller brushes.
Yes,
That used to be kind of a joke. It's like, you're going to end up being a Fuller brush salesman.
Oh, kind of like Al Bundy selling shoes.
Yeah, kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
He began to save money for investing, specifically in real estate development, while he was still doing odd jobs. He even drove a cab at one point.
Yeah, everybody's got to work.
He invested $20,000 into an apartment building in 1962, but where he got so much money was kind of questioned.
Yeah, that in 62, that's a lot of coin.
Peter's name came up as connected to some sort of scam that had investors sending money to Hungary with some promised return on their investment. And when they received nothing but a forged receipt, they were outraged.
You don't say.
Although police checked these allegations, Demeter was never charged or convicted for these.
But that is a lot of money to suddenly come up with when you're plugging away selling brushes and driving cabs.
Right. Regardless, Eden Gardens, Peter's first foray into the real estate world, began to sell apartments. Peter was on his way up. A year later, Peter's mother died while he was visiting Europe. He met another player who would figure in the Tangled story later. Her name was Marina Hunt, a 20-year-old model. Peter was so taken with Marina that he proposed to her on the second time that he saw her at a cocktail party.
Dear God.
She didn't want to move away from Vienna, especially to Canada, of which she knew little, and she barely spoke any English. She also had another fiancé already, but Peter didn't care. He pressed on. As we mentioned, he liked to go after what he wanted.
Yeah, he's determined.
Peter was obsessed and sent Marina letter after letter. Sometimes she was slow to respond, so Peter would send another, more desperate letter.
One thing I've learned in life, women love desperation in men.
Marina, not really interested, kept Peter at arm's length, but strung him along, meeting him now and again for little rendezvous. In 1966, Peter was in Vienna and wanted to take Marina out to celebrate the anniversary of their meeting. When Marina declined and spent the weekend with another man, Peter was enraged.
You don't say.
Peter showed up at Marina's doorstep, banging on the door.
Oh, dear.
When Marina answered, Peter choked her and threatened her with a revolver that he had had.
Okay, so this is when my loathe of Peter begins.
Marina got away from Peter, and he later received a letter from someone claiming to be Marina's lawyer, warning him away. Soon after, Marina sent Peter another letter apologizing and begging him to take her away from Vienna. Peter ran back to Marina, but when he arrived, there she was with her boyfriend again. 2 weeks later is when Peter Demeter met Christine Ferrari.
She should have kept that last name, by the way.
It's a great name.
Yeah, Ferrari? Scott Ferrari.
Our friend Patrick's middle name is Ferrari.
I know.
Yeah.
Lucky bastard.
Peter and Christine were married at Toronto City Hall on November 14th, 1967, 9 days after Christine's 27th birthday.
If you're looking for a smoking gun, I can absolutely guarantee you, you will not find it.
In October 2001, a series of letters filled with a deadly powder called anthrax were dropped into the U.S. mail system. What started as an unprecedented case turned into an unsettling mystery. Who sent these deadly letters, and why? From Campside Media and Sony Music Entertainment, I'm Josh Dean, and this is Cover Up Season 4, The Anthrax Threat, available now.
So there, we're all caught up on their history.
Yeah.
This is a weird one.
It seems like it right off the bat.
Yeah. As detectives examined Christine's body in the Demeter family garage, they quickly became suspicious. Her injuries did not look like a simple fall.
Exactly.
This was later backed up by pathologists.
Yeah.
Peter was acting strangely at the crime scene according to police officers as well. He acted aggressively with the first responding officers who were expecting a distraught husband. At other times, he seemed strangely calm.
What a weird way to react to emergency crews.
Especially with your wife laying there.
Yeah.
As they were waiting for the ambulance, Peter, standing near Christine's body, demonstrated for their friend Sybil how he thought Christine had fallen from the rafters in the garage.
Yeah, okay, like that's like you're trying really hard to convince people.
Yep, he was waving his arms and legs about and
this
is how it happened.
Yeah, so you're trying to plant that in their heads, steer the direction of where they're going to look. It's a pretty strong tell.
Well, Peter thought he was smarter than everybody else.
I'm not surprised.
When detectives first wanted to question Peter, he coldly said that there was too much excitement and he wished to talk later. And they agreed to that. Peter kept asking why Christine's body had not been moved from the garage. He wanted to take her to the hospital.
Yeah, okay. What they'll do, I don't know.
When Peter was told that police wanted to ensure Christine was given the dignity of a full investigation, Peter said, "Well, can't you get her out of here?"
Oh my God, it's so cold.
Peter was also acting like every question was an accusation. No one had accused him of anything. When Peter was asked to come to the police station for questioning, he asked, "Am I under arrest?"
Oh yeah, so suspicious, this guy.
They just wanted to talk to him about what had happened.
Yeah, which you would think is understandable.
Even during questioning, Peter was evasive and gave weird answers indicating he was hiding something.
He's doing a terrible job at trying to, turn attention away from him.
He was not doing himself any favors.
Exactly.
It wasn't just the fact that he was Christine's husband. We all know the husband is usually the first person they look at.
Yeah.
But it was his actions that caused police to look at him as their prime suspect pretty much right away.
Yeah, well, everything he's doing is directing them towards him.
100%.
Yeah, not a smart man.
It was quickly discovered that Peter and Marina both had $1 million life insurance policies on each other.
Holy crackers, for that time, that's
a lot of cash.
Jesus.
Their marital troubles surfaced early in the investigation as well. Peter had continued to see Marina on the side, the model from Vienna, and Christine also had her share of affairs outside the marriage. The two were known to argue a lot.
Holy fart knockers, that's a lot of carrying on outside the relationship there for these guys.
Police began to feel that although Peter was not physically involved, what they were sure of was that Christine had been murdered and that Peter was somehow involved in the planning or...
Yeah, totally.
He definitely knew more than he was telling.
Yeah, clearly.
They tapped Peter's phone the day after Christine's death. There was no need for a court order at that time.
Oh, wow. What time to be alive. You just tap anybody.
As mentioned above, well, I think they had to have some kind of like...
Well, I'm sure, but it's still like, now
probable cause.
Now there's lots of forms.
Yeah. As mentioned above, Saba Silagi was one of Peter's close associates. The cops knew it too. They questioned Saba at a pizza shop, and he spilled his guts.
Oh, okay.
In 1968, when Saba had finished his military service in Austria, Peter invited him to come live with him in Canada. But as he didn't have adequate accommodation for him at the time, he got Saba a job in Austria until he was able to find a place for him to live.
Yeah, okay.
In late 1968, Peter told Saba that he had come up against some obstacles and there was an unspecified person in Peter's life who he wanted killed.
Oh, okay. Okay, then.
Peter spoke to Saba multiple times about this over the next few months, never mentioning who or why. In 1969, Peter paid for Saba to come to Canada and gave him a room in their house, where Saba lived until the summer of 1970. In the late summer of 1970, Peter told Saba for the first time that the person he wanted killed was his wife, Christine.
All right.
During the next 2 or 3 years, Demeter discussed a number of schemes for killing Mrs. Demeter with Saba. Peter wanted it to look like an accident. In the spring of 1973, Saba said he'd become increasingly uncomfortable with this kind of talk and didn't want to discuss it any further.
Oh, yeah.
Peter was angry at Saba and didn't bring it up with him again. Saba signed a statement claiming all the above was true and agreed to help police by being wired at the funeral home where Christine's body now lay, awaiting her memorial service and interment. Saba began talking to Peter in private how the police were pressuring him into taking a lie detector test. Peter was reassuring Saba he had nothing to worry about. Peter even offered to pay for Saba's legal bills if any were required. Here's a bit of what was said in one exchange.
I want to know.
Peter says, "Now then, you know that you're perfectly innocent, don't you?" Saba says, "Well, yes, I know." Peter says, "But now then, consequently," and Saba says, "You know it too." Peter then says, "I am the one who knows best. And you know even better how innocent you are, don't you? Consequently, please don't get excited about it."
He likes the word consequently.
Consequently, he does.
Whoa.
Peter goes on to infer that he himself does not know who killed Christine, that there was a middleman involved, keeping him another layer removed from the crime.
But that's an admission of knowledge of it.
He infers it. After another conversation with Saba over the phone, where Peter jokes with him about knowing Christine was having an affair, and that Christine had him followed too, police found his tone was cold, and they'd had enough.
Well, his tone was cold right from the beginning.
Yeah.
In his garage with the police.
Not at all that of the grieving husband.
No, exactly.
And they'd also found that money was moving all over the place, and even to people in Europe with shady backgrounds. Even though no murder weapon had been found, the police had a strong suspect as to who the actual murderer of Christine Demeter had been.
Intriguing.
They began to feel they had a strong enough case, though, to try Peter first.
Okay.
They were concerned that he might flee to Europe and disappear if he was tipped off.
I get that concern. I mean, he still has probably family and lots of connections back there.
But he kind of thinks he's getting one over on the cops.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Well, you can tell this is a guy whose ego is larger than reality.
The police arrested Peter at his home on August 17th, 1973, one day less a month after Christine's murder. They charged him with non-capital murder of his wife, so that means you can't hang for it, because Peter Demeter hired lawyers Edward Greenspan and Joseph Pomerant to defend him, and the legal wrangling began. Over a year later, Peter's trial started. Saba betrayed Peter on the stand, reiterating what he told police about Peter's desires to murder Christine.
Oh, interesting. I wonder how Peter felt about that.
The damning tapes were played as well. Letters between Marina and Peter were admitted in evidence also. One letter from July 9th, 1973, Peter wrote Marina and signed off saying, "I await your arrival like children wait for Christmas." Marina's letter back to Peter on July 10th contained her worries about being pregnant. Remember, this is just 8 days before Christina's.
Wow, okay.
Another of the interesting features of Demeter's trial was the testimony of a hooded figure called Mr. X. Mr. X, it turned out, was a jailhouse snitch named Galia Virag. Mr. X told the court that Peter had admitted to hiring a hitman known as the Duck in Hungary. This man, Imre Oljenkovic, a small-time criminal, was later sought by the Canadian government as the physical murderer of Christine Demeter. Before he could be apprehended, however, and extradited back to Canada, the Duck turned up dead.
Oh.
So dead duck.
Yeah. Oh, how fitting.
Terrible.
Yeah.
The defense went to work. A former boxer named Joseph DiNardo claimed Christine had offered him $10,000 to beat Peter to death only a week before she died. And another associate of his named Epper may have committed Christine's murder. Oddly enough, Epper was conveniently dead after a gunfight with police 6 weeks after Christine's murder.
This is all scooters.
It's hard to follow because I suspect most of it is bullshit. DiNardo claimed his friend had shown up bloody and frantic on the night of Christine's murder. DiNardo denied being paid for his testimony. Of course he's going to deny.
Yeah.
Peter did not testify in his own defense.
Well, that is what is usually recommended, so.
The 11-week trial, the longest in Canadian criminal history, ended with the jury sent out to consider their decision. After almost 48 hours of deliberation, they came back in, finding Peter Demeter guilty of hiring someone to murder Christine. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Before sentencing, Peter was given an opportunity to speak, and he rambled on for a full 17 minutes.
Oh, dear God.
From the Ottawa Citizen on December 7, 1974, the end of Demeter's emotional appeal went. "Someone of my background cannot exist in prison. I find it difficult to exist under the suspicions not to be able to reconcile your verdict. I'm sure everyone who is found guilty of something has all kinds of explanations, some using the veil of innocence, but that is not my intention." His voice choked with emotion as he neared the end of his address by announcing he would not appeal the conviction. His lawyers announced later, however, that an appeal would be made. Demeter then stated, "I hereby announce I am not guilty of murder." He then listened to the sentence from Mr. Justice Grant. Peter was sentenced to life in prison.
Well, thank God for that. Wow. I'm not a fan of this jerk.
He wasn't done yet.
Oh, the judge wasn't?
No,
Or Peter.
Peter was not done yet.
Oh, well.
Demeter sued the insurance companies that didn't want to pay the murderer his wife's insurance payout, claiming he was innocent and that he had new evidence. The cases were dismissed, and Peter Demeter did not get that money.
Hilarious. Him saying, I don't want to appeal it, which ended up happening, but he doesn't want to appeal it, has new evidence.
Right.
For insurance.
the money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here comes the money.
Yeah, exactly.
In 1983, Demeter had served almost 10 years, and due to good behavior, he was moved to a Peterborough, Ontario halfway house.
Oh, I think I can see where this is going.
Stephen Demeter's cousin had custody of Andrea, Christine, and Peter's daughter. Stephen was also the lawyer who represented Peter during the civil court cases with the insurance companies.
Okay.
Stephen charged a $60,000 legal bill to Peter's finances and paid himself with Peter's money, which he also had because of the custody that he had of Andrea.
Okay.
So he had a lot more access to Peter's cash.
Yeah.
Peter was not happy with this.
Well, I can understand why, but...
It looked like he might get out soon, and he was another $60,000 lighter in the wallet. Not cool. But,
cool.
you know, he owed the guy the money,
They did.
and the guy had access to the money,
So he...
took it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did what was within his legal right to do.
Yeah. But Peter is just greedy and selfish and thought about him.
Well, he came up with a plan with a couple of inmate pals.
Oh, is it like they're going to like bake a cake, bring it to him in hopes that he will give the money back?
Maybe it's something like that,
Yeah.
but not really.
Oh.
He wanted his pal, Tony Preston, to burn down the Demeter's home in Mississauga for $8,000. Tony would be paid out of the insurance money from the destruction of the home. Tony was caught before he could do anything, and he not only rolled over on Peter about the plan to burn down the house, but went on to uncover a much more deviant scheme. The money from the insurance proceeds was also to go toward the kidnap and murder of Peter's cousin Stephen and his son.
Holy jeez.
Demeter was charged with conspiracy to kidnap and murder.
Wow.
So a guy who's already in jail.
Innocent, Mike, innocent.
He's innocent.
Yeah, he's innocent.
He's never
it's
done
not
anything.
in his character.
Horrible. Like he's just been framed multiple times.
Right?
Preston testified with the promise that his own arson charges would be stayed. Peter tried to kill himself with pills that he'd been somehow hoarding.
Well, part of me says it sucks that he was not successful.
Again, there were damning tapes played at his trial. In July 1985, Peter was convicted of the charges and received 2 life sentences to run concurrently. District Court Judge G. Burke Smith said, "The contract killing of a close relative has a shuddering similarity to the accused prior crime."
Yes.
Smith also referred to Demeter as a very dangerous man, very intelligent, but diabolical.
He pretty much nailed it, yeah.
He's got to be done now, right?
Oh, he's got to be done. What else could there be? He's in plot to murder the judge now?
Well, there's more.
Oh, great.
While in the halfway house, Peter Demeter met a woman named Lisa Ross, the mother of a 9-year-old girl.
Oh, God.
She had testified for Peter during his conspiracy to kidnap and murder trial, saying he was innocent of what he was accused of. Ross said that Demeter told her at one point that he didn't care if, and this is a quote from her, he didn't care if I wasn't as beautiful as other women who had been in his life.
I don't really know how to reply to that.
She was clearly a vulnerable person.
Oh, my God.
And in a bad spot to have tolerated that kind of treatment.
Oh.
But she wanted to make up for her inferiorities by assisting Demeter. Peter just wanted her to lie for him on the stand, outlining another lie in a letter about falsifying evidence.
I think is his name even Peter? Like, so far, nothing about this guy seems like it's on the up and up.
He signed the letter, "Your loving, slowly dying, hopelessly in love sweetheart."
Well, that's how I address all my letterhead to you.
It's true.
It is. That's true.
Peter Demeter had more diabolical plans up his sleeve.
I think the word diabolical was created for Peter.
Toby Bellman, mother of 3 children, was at one time Demeter's lawyer during a bail hearing and a preliminary inquiry.
Okay.
Demeter owed her a $45,000 legal fee, but he wouldn't pay up.
Oh, God.
So she froze 75,000 shares of Demeter's stock when he wouldn't pay her.
Oh, good call.
This was when Peter Demeter began to plan the kidnapping of Bellman's children.
This guy.
Demeter planned on hiring an ex-cellmate of his from Collins Bay Penitentiary, Michael Hodgson, a.k.a. the Doberman Pincer, or Nasty Mike, to kidnap Bellman's son.
Okay, I've at least got to give him credit for, his stick-to-itiveness. If the first 17 attempts at kidnap and murder don't work out, keep going. Yeah. Maybe the 18th maybe that'll be the one.
That's how you succeed in business, apparently.
Exactly.
The plan was foiled when Lisa Ross, Demeter's ex-lover, failed to deliver a letter to Nasty Mike from Demeter. According to Ross, she couldn't because she was scared and the thought was too frightening to her.
Yeah, it's called the conscience.
Eventually, Nasty Mike was deported to England, his native home. Then Demeter decided to hire Peter Winstanley, another former cellmate, to have someone kidnap Bellman's teenage daughter, Eliza.
Yeah, my God, this guy.
On July 28th, 1985, Lisa Ross received a phone call from Winstanley inviting her to lunch.
Okay.
After Ross had received the okay from Demeter to attend the lunch, he instructed her to ask Winstanley if he wanted to take one of Toby Bellman's children on vacation.
Okay. Weird request.
Ross later testified that when she asked Winstanley the question, he asked for clarification of exactly what was meant by vacation. Ross then testified that a figure of $25,000 was discussed, and that at a later meeting, the kidnap plot itself was discussed. Lisa Ross, Demeter's ex-lover, testified as to the breakdown figure of $300,000 that Demeter was going to ask for the ransom of the child. less $30,000 plus expenses for the man that Demeter was going to hire to do the job. The rest would be for living expenses for Demeter and Lisa Ross to live in exile in Costa Rica when he got out on early parole, which I'm sure was going to happen, along with $400,000 worth of stock that he'd hidden away.
Holy jeez. This guy.
His plan was to write books about all the things he'd done and make it appear that he and Ross were living off the profits from the book sales stated by Demeter during a taped conversation with Ross at a Metro West detention center on August 12, 1985. So he told on himself.
And you can clearly see how this guy's brain works, how methodical he is, and so
he's just always working on another thing.
Yeah, which only supports the first. The murder of his wife. You know what I mean? Like that is exactly fits in so perfectly with how his brain.
It's like a duck, and excuse the pun because
there's a dead duck. Yeah. Well punned.
2 days after this conversation was recorded, on August 14th, 1985, Winstanley was supposed to have the kidnapping take place. Demeter had already mailed the ransom note to Bellman. The kidnapper was to take the girl to a hideout about 260 kilometers north of Toronto, where the girl would be murdered if Bellman didn't pay up. Once the kidnapping had taken place and Eliza was in the safe house, Peter was supposed to get a message, signed by Eliza, that would say, "Please solve the impasse in Metro West." This was the cue to Demeter that he was to start negotiating at the jail with Bellman. Ross testified that Demeter was prepared to threaten Bellman with the kidnapping of all 3 of her children. However, Peter knew that the threat would never have to be worked through because he knew that Bellman would pay the ransom for the first girl.
Oh, okay. Very, very confident.
Lisa Ross was originally charged with being a co-conspirator in the kidnapping, but was described as unindicted co-conspirator and testifying for the Crown, which means she got immunity for her testimony.
Yeah.
At the sentencing in 1988, regarding this kidnap plot, Justice O'Driscoll stated that, time and again, he has proven he is dangerous if he has access to money. The justice went on to state, if Peter Demeter is a psychopath, he has a unique feature. Instead of burning out as he gets older, he's getting worse.
Yeah, clearly.
In May 2006, after Demeter had refused to provide a DNA sample, a judge ordered one taken, and his DNA has since been included in Canada's DNA databank, in case he ever escapes or get out.
Mm-hmm.
While in jail, now housed in the Medium Security Bath Institute in Bath, Ontario, Demeter has had a stroke, a heart attack, and 3 bouts with cancer. He's still kicking and will turn 86 years old in April of 2019. There was a very bad fictional film made about the case called I Miss You, Hugs and Kisses, made in 1978. I'll post a link in the show notes for prosperity's sake, but you really shouldn't bother. It's a waste of your time.
But, when you say that only incentivizes people.
And I kind of knew that.
Myself included.
And people are going to go watch it because it's bad.
Yeah.
So that's the story of Peter Demeter.
Yeah, Peter Demeter. This guy's a...
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. He is... the fact that he had that crime carried out, the initial crime carried out with his child in the house.
Yep.
Like, he cares nothing but him profiting at the expense of... others, no matter what their well-being will be. Like, he doesn't care how anything he's doing is impacting anybody.
No, totally he doesn't.
Totally a psychopath. Completely. All he cares about is himself and primarily how he's going to acquire more money.
Yep.
So that makes me even more curious now where that original $20,000 he came up with for that apartment complex.
We don't know for sure.
Well, no, we don't. But
he could have been frugal.
No. Now that we see what he's willing to do for money, the fact that he had at one point just suddenly come into money, what did he do? Very, very curious. But this guy's a jerk.
I read an article on CBC where journalists went and talked to his daughter, Andrea.
Oh wow,
who's now like our age.
Yeah.
And she has PTSD. And has had just the worst life thanks to this guy. It looks like she's turned her life around now, but she really had a rough time because of all this stuff that she went through with her father and her mother having been murdered.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, I can completely relate to that. I don't think...
She's the real victim in all this, as far as I'm concerned, and she's the one who's kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
What happened to this 3-year-old little girl who...
Yeah.
You know, this brute had her mom killed. You're 3 or 4. Like, you don't know. You don't know what's going on with your parents.
There's a lot of self-hate and blame. I know for myself, I grew up with abandonment issues because of it, because you're always, the 3 or 4-year-old brain struggles to process these things in any other way other than, I wasn't good enough. This happened because I wasn't good enough. It's when you're that age, a death like that of a parent, you absolutely process it as, this is my fault. The little brains don't recognize anything other than, this is my fault. If I was better, this wouldn't have happened. And so the PTSD makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. My event lingered with me my entire life and it impacted almost everything I did. So I get this girl. Like, I get where she's coming from. And wow. Yeah, you're right. She's the real victim in all of this. Well, one of the real victims in all of this.
And she mentions people always want to talk about her father, and they never mention her mother. You know, and she can't really remember her mom because she was like 3 years old.
Yep.
She said she remembers she had coarse hair.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was just like, oh wow, that's what you can remember about your mom.
Yeah.
You know, like you have no real.
Your memories are kind of like snapshots at that, like be it a feeling, a smell, like it's just these little snapshots. Like it's really quite.
I did a bit of Facebook stalking on her, and it looks like she's a happy person now. Like there was a lot of
that's awesome,
smiley faces and stuff. So.
Good. You know, if you can survive those kind of things long term, then there's a lot of strength in that lady, and so I'm proud of her, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm floored by the resilience of the human soul over and over and over again.
Yeah, right?
You know, like we see it week after week after week.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for listening to this weird episode.
Peter Demeter.
Peter Demeter.
For you. Peter Demeter for me.
Before we go, we want to give some shout-outs to our new patrons. This week's good eggs are Shelly Rodriguez from Gonzales, Louisiana.
Hey, welcome, Shelly. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Wolf from Rochester, Washington.
Great name. Thank you, Sean.
Wolf was my family name in...
oh, was it?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. In the Netherlands.
Mine was Fox.
Fox?
No, I'm lying. It wasn't.
Catherine Davis from Bellevue, Washington.
Hey, Catherine. That's close by.
Tara Dodd, who didn't let us know where she's from, so we make stuff up.
Oh, Tara Dodd. No, I know where she's from. I know all about her.
Where's she from?
Oh, she's from Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does she do?
She's actually a professional catfisher. Like they actually catch catfish with their hand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And it crawls up their arm, kind of thing.
Well, kind of like they're quite huge, and like you use your hand kind of at somewhat as bait, and when they lock on, you pull them up and out of the water. And there was a show about them a while ago. She wasn't on it.
Okay.
She wasn't on it.
But you know that's where she's from.
I know that's where she's from, and that's her occupation.
Well,
it's
thank you, Tara Dodd.
Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable job and courageous. So I'm really, really proud of your line of work.
And now Corey Smith.
Yeah.
She also didn't leave an address.
Oh, you don't know where Corey's from?
No.
Oh, well, again, this is,
it can't be Connecticut.
No, Kenny Bunkport.
That's Maine.
Yeah.
And George Bush Sr. had a nice cottage there.
I know. Well, that's actually why she moved there.
Like she had a crush on him?
Well, she says
was it Jeb?
She says crush. The legal system says stalk.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
We're walking a very fine line here.
No, she was walking not us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. But she's moved past that all.
You're making this up.
She's moved past it all.
Okay.
And
well, thanks, Corey.
Yeah, Corey.
There's Kate Germany, and I was thinking, I wonder where she's from. She's
Germany?
Nope.
Oh.
She's from Troy, Illinois.
Of course. Makes sense.
Thank you, Kate. And then there's David Jobst,
Hey, David.
but I don't know where he's from either.
Oh, well, let's take a shot at this one.
Okay.
Okay, Jobs. So, David Jobs. Let me just what? Closing my eyes, picturing.
Oh my gosh, I see Alaska.
Oh, yes.
Alaska. He's an Alaskan.
Yep.
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 Rugged individualist.
It's hard not to be when you live in Alaska. I
Yep.
almost said Atlaska.
Yep.
Also, great place.
But interestingly, he likes to go about with no shirt on.
Well, he puts a lot of effort into his body.
Sure.
He
You got
puts
to show it off.
Yeah, he puts you should be proud of that.
If you got it, flaunt it. Neither of us do.
Strut about. Yeah, no, in Australia, I put more shirts on.
You didn't want to burn up.
No. But no, if my memory serves me correct, he's a bear trapper, right?
I thought he was a hairdresser.
Oh, I get those two confused
Okay.
quite frequently.
Okay.
Yes, hairdresser.
Well, thank you, David Jobst.
Thanks, David.
Or Jobst.
Jobst.
Monica Falatic, and she's from Newport News, Virginia.
Oh, hey, Monica.
And Sarah Marie Vale, and she's from Plymouth in Great Britain.
Oh, it is pretty great there.
Pip, pip, tally ho.
Yep. Chip, chip, cheerio, Sarah.
Thanks so much to our patrons, past and present, for your pledges. We really appreciate your support of the show. If you want to help support our show, you can do so at patreon.com/darkpoutine, or for a one-time donation, you can send us some donut money via PayPal at our email address, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com. And we did get some donut money this week.
Donut money!
Interestingly, Kim Newman, my old pal Sakari, who I used to game with, and I remember one time she spilled like a glass of water into her keyboard while we were playing a match somewhere.
Oh, that's not good.
It was like Call of Duty 2 or something.
That is not recommended.
And let's just say there was a string of blue words that came from her
Headset?
her neck of the woods.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
Kim's an old friend. I think we've known each other for, like, online. We've known each other for, oh my gosh, it's like going on like
4 hours?
15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
That
weird.
is a chunk of time.
It is. So, hi, Kim. She lived in Vegas the last time we chatted, but
Do you still game with her?
no, we haven't in a long time. I don't know what she's playing. She has a Twitch stream.
Maybe it's time to reestablish that gaming bond.
I'll look up her Twitch stream maybe, and I'll make a mention of it next week.
Yeah.
We got a donation from someone who wanted to remain anonymous, an unknown masked person, masked donor, and it is the largest one-time donation that we've ever received.
Whoa.
And we don't want to go into how much it is. Let's just say it's nowhere near that $50,000 that we require before we come and lay on a bearskin rug and do an episode.
Yeah, but it's still really
But it was
dope.
a big donation.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it from unknown donor.
This is a mystery.
It is a mystery. Megan Wheeler, thank you for your donut money. Stuart Chandler Boss, thank you for yours as well. Leslie McNabb and Angeline Hirano.
Yeah, so Megan, Stuart, Leslie, and Angelina, holy cow, thank you guys so much.
We appreciate it.
We very much do.
Check out our website, www.darkpoutine.com, for show notes and other cool stuff. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for Dark Poutine and tell your friends about us. Or don't.
No, do.
Yeah,
I'm going to say do.
let's do.
Yeah, do it.
Especially fun is the Umber Yard. People keep asking where the Umber Yard is from. Episode 12, folks. Episode 12. Just listen to episode 12, and you will hear me say Yumber instead of lumber.
Yep.
And so it just kind of stuck.
As it should, and it's now like on shirts. We have Yumber swag.
Yeah, we have Yumber Yard swag.
It's pretty great.
At our darkpoutine.threadless.com
Yep.
store.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. And I just put up some more swag there the other day. Did you see that?
I did. I loved it.
Yeah. Grab yourself a double and an Nanaimo bar.
Well,
It's time to scarf down some dark poutine.
Because we heard the feedback from people about the change that was made, and clearly that's something important to a lot of the listeners, so why not make some swag?
Yeah, so people were upset with that little change. I was trying to be creative. Nobody made me do it. It was just me being like, I think we should put dessert at the end, because I felt like I was promoting the wrong kind of diet.
Well,
And then people were telling me that it didn't flow and that, they missed the beginning and they want their damn Nanaimo bar and their double. So there you can have it. We love you guys and we want to make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the creative process, is you're going to try things. Some stick, some don't.
Yeah, it's like U2's Zubaropa.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, the tour was hugely successful.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have done that.
Why?
That album stunk.
The album, yeah, but the tour,
Lemon.
they made money. I like that song, actually.
Oh, it's terrible.
Lemon. Yeah, I love that song.
With Edge and his one guitar string that he plays. Ding, ding, ding,
I know.
ding, 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 ding.
I loved it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm not saying I don't like you too. Just ding, 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 ding.
You loved it.
Anyway, you can subscribe to us in your favorite podcatcher like iTunes Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, which is actually coming up the charts for us in a big way,
Oh,
or wherever you get your on-demand audio. I guess that's it for this episode.
I guess it is.
What?
I know.
Another one done?
Another one in the bag.
In the bag.
Yep. The bag of donuts.
Oh,
The donut bag.
and we're having I don't know if I should announce it on the show because we may too many people show up, but we're going to have a get-together
Yep.
at the Elephant and Castle
Yep.
in Vancouver on Burrard.
Yep.
I think it's Burrard and Hastings. This is in the Marine Building.
Yeah.
And it'll be upstairs on February 2nd, and that is a Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's Groundhog Day. But Scott and I will be there. Carol will be there. Adam Pyatt from Australia will be there.
Yep.
He has his own podcast, the Point Blank Podcast.
Yep.
So
He's coming all this way, people.
he's coming all this way to eat poutine with us.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a pretty good time. So if you want to show up there, we're going to be there between 6 and 10. So Elephant and Castle, Marine Building, downtown Vancouver, upstairs, 6 to 10, February 2nd, 2019.
God, I'm kind of scared. Like,
I'm a little scared.
Just putting it on the show, how much that will, like, because we got a lot of local listeners.
Yeah, well, so we have room for 40, and right now 35 are.
So 5 more of you, if you're listening.
But you know what? It's a bar, it's a pub, it's a big pub. I'm sure that they will be happy to have a lot of people show up and make noise and
No, I've got a
food.
I've got a 40-person personal limit. Like, I won't talk. Like, I'll talk to 40 people. Beyond that, like, I malfunction.
Yeah.
So if I shun you, that's why.
No.
Don't take it personal.
Well, there you have it. That's it for this week. Until next week, don't forget to be a good egg. Not a bad apple.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
I said to my parents, don't trust her. They wouldn't listen.
Every family has a secret.
Joy Delaney, mother of 4, is gone missing.
From the author of Big Little Lies comes a chilling new mystery to W.
You are an emotional chaos sinkhole, Amy, and I'm sick of it!
Starring Annette Bening.
Nobody can break your heart like your own children.
And Sam Neill.
She will come back. Here we go. Strap in.
Apples Never Fall. All new Thursdays, only on W. Stream on Stack TV.